Since the first cavemen walked the earth, humans have been in a constant battle of survival with the world around them. Our first ancestors had to endure and fight through whatever nature threw their way. They had to learn from the mistakes they made to better prepare the generations that would come after them. Each day, man would use whatever tool they could to make their lives safer, more effective, and easier. For that is the driving force of all human discovery and innovation: to make your life easier. Each tool, invention, or idea ever conceived by man was made with the intention of improving the daily life of at least one member of society. Sharpening rocks became crafting spears, hunting for prey became domesticating and breeding livestock, warring between communities became the establishment of a uniform society. Why? Because it was accepted by everyone in a community that working together was the best way to put everyone's minds to good use. With organized settlements, people were able to specialize and hone in on a craft that would contribute to the betterment of their society. Down the line of civilization, farmers, doctors, merchants, and great thinkers were enabled to practice their work and further develop the progression of mankind into its next phase. Humans, at their core, are unimaginably smart and have the potential to alter the very world they inhabit. At the same time, we, as a species, are incredibly lazy and will do anything we can to make any work we do easier. This includes making specialized machines to manufacture tools, learning more about the world around us to identify trends or patterns, and even having someone or something do the work for us. For the labor no one wants to do, why not have someone invent something that can do it? The progression of mankind and technological advancements have brought us to a point where we are at the cusp of an innovative revolution unlike any before it in the field of automation. With each passing day, more and more of the jobs we see around us will be phased completely out of the hands of man and into the hands of machines. This change is inevitable. Just as it comes naturally the human condition to make our lives easier, so too does the drive for automation. You cannot have one without the other. Alas, with any novel concept, there are always those who will oppose any change presented before them. The Luddites who starkly oppose the notion that innovation is coming do not have their reasons for protest rooted in fact, but in narrow-sighted denial instead. The optimism bias of "it won't happen to me" plagues those who don't believe a machine can take their job in the future. Consider the horse, for example. Before the automobile, there was a time when the fastest method of going from point A to point B was on top of a saddle. Put yourself in the horse's shoes during those beginning years of the automobile era. You would gallop a few miles a day with one or two people on your back, or you'd even draw a carriage with some of your horse buddies. Every innovation to your job has made it easier by a long run. From better saddles, stirrups, or harnesses to improved horseshoes and stables, every change to your job has made it easier for you. How much could these cars really affect us? Worst case scenario, we get to work a little less and take it easy, right? Wrong. In hindsight, it seems ridiculous to even entertain the idea that horses stood a chance in competing with cars. Cars don't tire, you don't have to pick up car poop, and you don't have to be limited to going just 30 miles per hour on a horse. Just as the horses before their automated counterparts made them obsolete, we too have our jobs to fear. But the future isn't all that bad. The one fallacy that many of the people pro-automation, hint hint, make is completely disregarding the actual consumer who determines whether automated projects are beneficial. You. Horses were made obsolete because the product that replaced them was preferred by humans. The car was made with the human's best intentions in mind, not the horses. The better technology that's produced makes more better jobs for humans, because that technology was made for humans. Granted, many entry-level jobs will be lost to machine, but not on the scale projected by so many. Automation will be used in conjunction with most humans, not entirely replacing them. Consider for a moment what is one of the highest respected professions, a doctor. In CGP Gray's video, he states that the program Watson is being used to slowly replace doctors as a diagnosing and treating alternative. Gray claims that Watson just needs to make fewer mistakes than the average doctor, and doctors will be phased out of their work. This is completely untrue. First, advanced intelligence systems such as Watson are not meant to completely replace physicians, but to work in concert with them. Before the Internet of Things, doctors or their secretaries would manually document all patient data on paper formats. That's hundreds of thousands of doctors with millions of pages of raw data on countless patients being limited to one office. With the implementation of computerized documentation in the medical field, patient data can be input directly into an online database. After years of wasting away valuable information, all that patient data can now be stored, analyzed, and tested on a scale unlike ever before. Now, electronic health records from patients across the world can be compared and presented to a doctor so that he or she can make the most informed diagnosis possible. Technology didn't replace doctors, it made doctors' jobs easier. Doctors weren't the only ones with a lighter workload thanks to automation within technology. Looking at the opposite end of the economic spectrum, the case of farmers is the prime example of why technological progress means the progression of mankind. In the year 1900, 33% of the workforce in the United States resided in farming. By the end of the century, that number went from 33% to 1.2%. Why, you might ask, did a third of the workers in the US leave their jobs? Because they were economically forced to. During World War II, there were hundreds of factories used for producing war materials such as bullets, planes, and bombs. After peace negotiations were signed, these same factories were left with nothing to provide the American market. Naturally, these factories converted themselves to produce something that would appeal to a third of all US workers: farm tools. By the start of the 1950s, these factories were pumping out an unprecedented amount of tractors, irrigation systems, and plowing tools for farmers across the country. These machines enabled farmers to go from managing a 200-acre farm with dozens of other farmers to overseeing a 400-acre farm all by themselves. With this new technology, farmers could mass-produce crops on a scale unlike ever before. Farmers were able to go from 33% of the population to 1.2% because that seemingly small 1.2 was astronomically more efficient than any number before. Naturally, with this massive increase in the amount one farmer is able to produce, the total number of farmers drastically decreased. One is left to wonder, what happened to all the farmers? Did automation and the advance of technology strip them of their livelihood? In actuality, the same surge of mechanization that served farmers simultaneously created an unprecedented demand for workers in other higher-earning occupations. Even when one considers the possibility that automation does envelop a field of labor, the rate of new job creation is greater than the single job it may replace. The next global saga we're all about to enter in human history is undoubtedly automation, but this does not foretell the end of human labor entirely. Instead, this particular wave of technological advancement is simply the latest stepping stone in the annals of mankind. Just like any innovation before it, the incorporation of computerized entities within labor will only make our lives easier. There is no evidence of a complete blackout of the job market comparable to the Great Depression, such as suggested by C.G.P. Gray. The only certainty with the increased integration of technology into our lives is that we, as a species, will be healthier, be better fed, and will have easier lives than ever before.